Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. Today, a reunion with an old favorite, one of my original watch passions from my early days as a collector. This is the Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Compressor Chronograph. Launched in 2005, the watch was part of a series of master compressor watches that featured the distinctive half-turn and quarter-turn compressor crowns for robust swimmable water resistance, but also quicker and easier access than a conventional screw-down crown. Designed by a very young female designer, Magali Maitre, these watches were extravagantly over-engineered, and this example on a rare full factory bracelet is a no-holds-barred sports watch. So let's take a quick look, because Miss Maitre did say that this watch, the Master Compressor Chronograph for Men, was her favorite watch that she designed during a torrid streak of inspiration in which she rarely set a line wrong, during the 2000s. She was there with Jérôme Lambert during the golden era of JLC. So taking a quick look at the watch, it's 41.5 millimeters in stainless steel. Not thick, but also not thin at 13.9 millimeters. Lug-to-lug, the watch is 50 millimeters. If you include the end links of the bracelet, it's 53. And then there's a 21 millimeter spacing in between the lugs. These master compressor watches were very distinctive timepieces. And you can see that on my wrist, it's actually a good fit. So you have a watch with a lot of personality that doesn't require bulk to get there. I would recommend it for a wrist of 15 centimeters circumference and up. If you wanted it to wear just a little bit more compact, you could put it on a strap. I recommend you not do so. Now you'll note the watch actually looks quite thin, thinner than it is when it's on the wrist, and that's because the case back, if you look at this, it's sort of recessed and cupped, so the watch sits lower and it sort of nestles down and sinks into the wrist once the bracelet is sized. A very comfortable watch. It will fit underneath the cuff. Here's your down the barrel shot. The bracelet is a major highlight here. It's one of the best bracelets of the 2000s, and here's why. Taking a look, there's an end link that mates it to the case. That's not unheard of. We have center links that are satin finished with little internal polished facets, and then we have flanking links that are polished. Note how every single link in this bracelet's removable, but you might think, Tim, why is JLC of all brands using a pin sleeve bracelet? Isn't that something you'd expect more from, I don't know, Tag Heuer or maybe Longines levels of pricing? Well, actually, this is not a pin sleeve bracelet. Every single one of these links is retained by a spring bar, meaning this is designed to be completely sized. That is the bracelet broken and reassembled using nothing but a strap tool. You don't need a screwdriver. The idea there, and it's brilliant from JLC, is that there's no risk of stripping out a screw, and you make it much easier to swap a link than if a person has to steady their hand with a jeweler's screwdriver, which most inexperienced folks rarely do, so there's less risk of also damaging the link. It is a brilliant system, and they allow you to remove every single link, so you're gonna find the right size. Each individual side of the clasp features a small snap-in, snap-out easy link style adjustment, and each one's about 2.5 millimeters of in and out adjustment. Then you've got a quadruple trigger, double deployant clasp, so you can see how that works. You have to press all 4 triggers to open both sides, so it's very secure on the wrist. You can even see that there are little spring-loaded sort of pin snaps inside. A very, very well-designed bracelet. Taking a look on the bottom, you can also see JLC scalloped these links to avoid pinching skin or pulling hair. And then we've got the case itself, which is fairly simple. You can see there's a little bit of a soft bevel that expands on the lugs. The lugs are narrow when viewed end-on, but very sheer when viewed in profile. Everything's polished. You can see the bezel is conical and stepped in a little bit. The compressor crowns are unique. They actually give you a color coding. Red, you're dead, and white, you're tight. So the chronograph crowns only require a quarter turn to lock them in place. And then we have the primary crown, which is used for winding and setting. That is 1/2 turn. Now you might ask, why do this? Well, there's a couple of reasons. The first is that because we're only decompressing, and recompressing the seals, we're not threading a stem through them repeatedly. So we're not degrading the seals, we're just decompressing and recompressing them. So your watch will stay highly water resistant longer. The other thing too is when your hands are wet, sweaty, or gloved and you have a very tightly screw down crown, especially with crown guards, it can be tough to unscrew it. Whereas here, even if your hands are wet, you get a big platform that makes it easy to grip. And then you get color coding, so you know that the crown is unlocked. So that's your warning that you really need to lock that before you go into the water. Easy to go into the water with a screw down crown turned out 1 or 2 turns and then wind up with a disaster. It's also a distinctive design. Taking a look at the dial, you can see we've got a tachymetric scale outboard, and there's a little bit of a dished profile to the dial. We have plenty of luminescence too, and if you look at the hands and you look at the numerals and you look at the indices, you can see that these Master Compressor watches, long before the tribute to Polaris, these were designed as a little bit of a wink and a nod to the Polaris 68. And then we have no shortage of lume. Jumping back to the dial, a couple of things to take into account. We have white, we have red, we have black on this dial. It's quite attractive overall. We have an hours disc. We have a date at the base along with running seconds. Then we have a jumping minute scale right there, and you'll see the minute scale jump as the seconds hand passes the index at 12 o'clock. And there you go. Believe it or not, it wasn't until this watch that JLC actually had an automatic winding in-house chronograph for all of its virtues. During its first century or so of building wristwatches, JLC really wasn't known as a chronograph manufacturer. So this movement is part of the 750 series. This is the 751, and it is underneath the solid gold medallion, which attests it has passed the Master 1000 hours control. You can see the watch is 100 meters water resistant. Well, this movement is a twin barrel automatic winder. It winds unidirectionally with ceramic bearings, those two features maximizing winding efficiency. The two barrels give it a very flat torque curve, so it doesn't have a lot of fluctuation as you work your way through the power reserve. 65-hour absolute power reserve, 41 pivot joules, 4 hertz beat rate. We've got a chronograph with the crispness of a column wheel, and then the smooth engagement of a vertical clutch with the ability to leave it running. If you just like to have running seconds at the center of your watch, you could ignore the chronograph registers. Lateral clutch chronos probably shouldn't be run full time, but a vertical clutch absolutely can be. Other features of this movement: we have a hacking seconds function, and then we also have a quick set mechanism for the date. Lots to love here with the semi-instantaneous jump of the minute, and then the watch, of course, built on a platform that's relatively compact. The movement's only 25.6 millimeters in diameter, so JLC packing an awful lot of functionality into this watch. Now, going back, we have the Master 1000 hours control. We talked about that earlier. It means the fully cased-up watch has been tested in 6 positions for chronometry, but also for water resistance, winding efficiency, power reserve, and overall durability. 1,000 hours, that's over 41 days. Remember, the COSC is a bare movement test in 5 positions for only 2 weeks. This was one of the first in-house tests that went beyond what COSC requires of a watch receiving that certification. Because remember, again, watches don't get COSC certified, only movements do, whereas watches get Master 1000 hours certified, and that's exactly what we've got right here. This was a landmark watch and still one of my favorites. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.